Hello, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I am going to show you how to navigate word problems involving arithmetic sequences. They're a lot like linear word problems, but it's just more specific because we're going to have situations where you have set amounts and nothing in between. So a situation where you have a charge per person as opposed to the growth of an animal over time. So to start with, you need to make sure that you understand what you're looking for in a word problem. The types of values they give you need to represent some part of an arithmetic sequence. So you ask yourself, okay, what's the first term? What's the common difference? What's the term number? That's what n equals. And then, what is the actual value? Probably what is the answer to the question. So one of these will be the unknown. Sometimes they'll give you a term and a term number, but they won't give you the difference. Or they won't give you the first term, but they give you all this other information. And so not only do you have to identify which particular part of an arithmetic sequence they're giving you, you have to figure out which part they're asking for. Some things to remember. First thing, your first term, the term they're asking for, and D, your common difference, all have to have the same units. So that's a huge hint. Sometimes they'll throw extra information at you, and you need to be able to distinguish between, okay, what do I actually use for these values and what do I not use? So if the first term is in a unit of dollars, then A sub n and D, the common difference, also have to be in dollars. That's a really big hint. Also, in addition to that, n is the other number that does not have the same unit of measurement. So usually it's a unit of time, days, weeks, months, or years, but that's not necessarily true. But it's a huge hint as to how to organize your information. The stuff with the same units, those are your terms and your common difference. N is your term number, usually time. And then the last thing is you always use the explicit formula to solve these. We've discussed this in class. Recursive is really only useful in spreadsheets. So default to the explicit formula. So let's tackle our first example. A sequence has the property that each term is 5 less than the preceding term. The first term is 650. What is the 10th term? So first we have to identify the information as, which part of an arithmetic sequence formula it is. And so to start with, it's pretty straightforward. They tell you the first term is 650. So A sub 1 is 650. They then tell you that each term is 5 less than the preceding term, so that's your common difference. They also want to know the 10th term. Remember, that's the term number, which would be n. So what I'm looking for is A sub n, or in this case, A sub 10, the 10th term. Not the term number, because they tell us 10th term. 10 is the term number. So what do? I put all my ingredients in my explicit formula. So just a reminder what the explicit formula is. Once I plug everything into place, 10 is my term number. It goes 2 places. It's a subscript for A to represent this would be the 10th term. It would equal the common difference, -5 times n minus 1, so 10 minus 1, plus your first term, 650. Now, there are no variables over here on the right side, so this is one that I just evaluate. And you can do 10 minus 1, which will be 9. 9 times -5, -45. Add that to 650, and you get the 10th term, 605. So that one's really straightforward. So if you feel like you want to take some practice right now, this is a really great time to pause your screen, work through these 2 problems, and then when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and press play. So this is what your what your work could look like. They give you the first term, the 6th term, and now they want the first 5 terms. So when you put everything in, your 6th term is 28. So That information is your A sub n. You are given the first term as 3, so that went here. You want the 6th term, that's your term number, so that goes here. And so what you're really looking for when you first put everything into the formula is the common difference. So 6 minus 1 is 5, solve for D. Once you have that common difference, you know the first term is 3, so you can just continue the sequence. To find the 30th term, instead of continuing to add to your sequence here, you can just place the 30 in place of n. So you found your common difference of 5, and you knew your first term was 3, so you throw that in there with 30 as your n value and evaluate. So here is a word problem that's actually a real-world scenario. A strawberry farmer picks 140 strawberries on the first day of the harvest and 30 more each succeeding day. How many total will be picked after the 10th day? So this is a little different than the linear word problems we've looked at because instead of giving you a starting amount, they give you the first day's amount and then give you a rate of change after that. That's what makes this an arithmetic sequence. They don't give us the 0 term, they give us the result of the first day or the first passing of our sequence. So how many total will be picked after the 10th day? So again, putting all of our pieces together, they tell us the first day he picks 140, that's A sub 1. He is picking 30 each day after that, so that's your common difference, it's positive. What they want is the total after the 10th day, so that's your term number, and so you're looking for A sub n or A sub 10. So putting all that into place, you would have your common difference, you would have your common difference here, you would have your 10 is your n value here, you would have your first term here, and then after you evaluate, you get 410. Now, how many days until he's picked a total of 3,000? So this time, they're not asking for nth term, they're asking for the actual term number. If you think about it, 10 represented the days up here, and n was what we replaced that with, so they're really asking you to solve for n on this problem. And just to backtrack a little bit, if you read through, you have 140 strawberries, you have 30 more strawberries, and then all of a sudden they're talking about days. So that's a huge hint that days is your n value because n is what is different as far as units. Down here we're back to strawberries, strawberries, strawberries. So that tells me I'm solving for n. So putting all that together, this time instead of plugging in for the n value, I'm plugging 3,000 in here at the beginning of my formula. And this one is one that I do have to solve because the variable's over here on this side, so I have to isolate. Distribute the 30, combine your like terms, subtract 110, divide by 30. And these are days we're talking about, so you have to think about if it's 96.3, that means the 96th day has passed, they've gone into the 97th day, and at some point they will pick the 3,000th strawberry. So here is another real-world example, and this is a great opportunity to pause the video, try this on your own, and then when you think you're done, hit play and check your work. The question reads, Jose averaged 123 total pins per game in his bowling league this season. He's taking bowling lessons and hopes to bring his average up to 8 pins each new season. So when I first look at this, I notice that there are pins and pins. So the first question is, what will Jose's average be by his 5th season? when I read that question, fifth season, that's a unit change. So that must mean that total pins up here, these are going to be your A sub 1 and your common difference. This will be an N value. So when I plug it all in, I take my starting term, 123, that's my A sub 1. I have my 8 pins each new season, that is my common difference. And then the fifth season, that's a switch up on units, so that tells me that is an N value, which goes here and here. And then I have no variables. I don't need to solve, I just need to evaluate, and I get 155. Here's the second question. If the pattern continues, during what season will Jose average 187 per game? Here we are again, check your units. 187 what? Pins, right? So they've switched it up, and this time I am trying to find N because it says during what season. Seasons were my N value. So in this one, putting all my information into place, I have the 187 here in the A sub N place. 8 was my common difference, 123 is my first term. Variables on this side, so I have to solve. Subtract 115, divide by 8. It's his 9th season. The question asks, is it reasonable for this pattern to continue indefinitely? So I think in order to really assess this, you kind of have to understand a little bit about bowling. And there are only so many rounds in bowling. So is there a limit to the total number of pins that he could get per game? Yes, because the bowling game ends after a certain number of rounds. So it is not reasonable for this pattern to continue indefinitely. So last example, nosebleed section college football tickets are $23 each this year. After 10 years, they'll be $50 each. How much should the price increase per year? So again, great time to pause, see if you can make sense of this and solve it. And then when you're ready, press play to check your work. So when I first look at this, I'm noticing units. I see that we have $23, $50, and then over here it says 10 years. So that tells me that this is my N value because it's years. So from there, I can break this up. It says our first year, it's $23, so that's my first term. After that, they'll be $50 each. So that sounds to me like a total amount, not necessarily a rate of change. The other hint there is that it says how much did the price increase per year. That describes your common difference. What's the increase per year? So that tells me that I already said that N was 10, so it must be the A sub 10 is 50. In case I wasn't sure of that to begin with, there were clues. Putting all that information into the formula, I would have my first term of 23 at the end. My 50 would go here because that's what A sub 10 equals. My N value of 10 would go here in the parentheses. And here I am with the variable on the right side. So I can solve using inverse operations, and I get D equals 3. So that tells me that the tickets will increase in price $3 a year. Now this is a lot of information. This is what we would have done in class if I was there in person. So take your time, make sure you took some notes, go back and review the problems that you weren't sure about, and then do the practice.